Chosen one, there is something shifting. You may not see it yet with your eyes, but your soul has already caught the scent. The air around you, do you feel it? It's not ordinary. It trembles with a kind of energy that doesn't come often, not from this world, but from the origin of all things. You've felt this before, haven't you? A tug deep within, as though something ancient stirs behind the veil. A quiet pressure that tightens around the ribs, not out of fear, but out of remembering. Because this moment has visited your spirit before. In dreams you forgot, in prayers you whispered in silence. In the ache you never quite explained. You didn't stumble here by luck. You were drawn, not by force, but by design. And what's coming to you now was always written. No, not in the books of men, but in the folds of eternity. You were never meant to blend in, never created to be overlooked. You were marked not with ink or label, but with essence, the kind that light recognizes, the kind that truth bows to. And the universe, it has noticed, it has been waiting, watching, preparing. This isn't about motivation. This is about movement, not the kind your legs can carry, but the kind that realigns stars, breaks illusions, and bends timelines. You see, chosen one, you've been growing in places no one could see, where the soil was silent, where the sun rarely touched. But that didn't mean nothing was happening. It meant everything sacred was happening. The divine doesn't build in chaos. It builds in quiet. And you've been sculpted in silence, every unanswered prayer, a stone laid in foundation, every night you wept alone, a river carved to carry glory, every betrayal you swallowed, a shield forged to hold your calling. This wasn't delay, this was design. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are not late, you are becoming. And this becoming, it doesn't require your performance, only your presence. Because the next chapter doesn't wait for applause. It waits for alignment. So here you are, not because you forced your way here, but because heaven opened a path. And now the divine stands in front of you, not as a myth, not as a hope, but as a flame that will not flicker, as a wind that does not bend. It's time, the shaking you feel. What if your entire life has been guiding you to this very breath, so that you'd finally remember who you are? If your heart stirred while reading, it's not coincidence, it's confirmation. This space wasn't built to entertain, it was built to awaken. So don't just scroll away, comment below. What truth lit up for you? What part of your soul stood still and listened? And if something in you whispered, I needed this, then subscribe. Not as a follower, but as someone finally ready to rise. You're not alone anymore. This is your moment. It's not instability, it's birth. The cracking beneath your feet, it's not danger. It's doors unhinging because locked rooms can no longer contain what you carry. You've hidden for long enough. You've dimmed your light to survive. You've played small to stay safe. But safety is not your assignment. Greatness is. The world will not be moved by the version of you that fits in. It will be transformed by the version that cannot be silenced. And that version? She's rising, he's emerging. They're arriving, one breath at a time. And as you rise, don't look around for validation. The divine does not seek permission. It simply reveals. That's what's about to happen. Not a motivation, a revelation. The you that you were always meant to be is no longer waiting. It's stepping in, taking form, speaking truth, not through noise, but through stillness. You will walk into places and feel the shift before anyone speaks. You will speak into silence and watch it echo in hearts unspoken, not because you're performing, but because your presence now carries fire, divine fire, not destructive but refining, not loud but undeniable. Chosen one, what you're entering into cannot be undone, not by fear, not by doubt, not by delay. There is no going back. The old world you lived in, it's fading, and you know it. You've tried to return to what was. You've tried to find comfort in what once held you. But your soul didn't fit there anymore, did it? Because what was familiar can no longer carry what's forming. You are not shedding skin, you are shedding worlds. And in its place, a light that doesn't need explanation, a truth that doesn't need defense, a clarity that doesn't need confirmation. So, don't panic when the old falls away. Let it leave. Not every loss is a tragedy. Some are transitions. Some are answers to prayers you forgot you asked. Some are the only way the divine can make room for the new. You didn't come this far to stay the same. This isn't about starting over. This is about stepping in to what was always yours, to what has always waited. The heavens are not quiet. They're roaring, and the echo is reaching you now. Listen not with ears, but with essence. Do you feel it? The pull, the pause, the power? That's not anxiety, that's alignment. That's your soul saying, this is it. This is the moment. You don't have to prepare. You are the preparation. You don't need the whole map. You are the signal. Every breath you take in this awareness is a confirmation that the waiting is over, that the divine has entered, and that nothing will be the same again. Not because you forced it, but because you surrendered. And now, as the air shifts, as the silence thins, as the unseen begins to touch the visible, stand still, breathe deep, and let what's been promised begin to unfold. This is not the climax. This is the opening, the inhale before the storm, the whisper before the roar. Stay here. Don't rush. Let it rise in you, because this is the divine beginning, and you, chosen one, are finally home in it. Chosen one, what you're sensing now is not uncertainty, it's unveiling. There are moments when your soul feels stretched, like it's reaching for something your mind can't define. That's not confusion, that's your inner world expanding, growing wide enough to carry what has always been meant for you. You've spent years wondering why you felt so restless, why peace only visited, never stayed, why clarity danced around your prayers but rarely stepped in to answer. It wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because when the divine prepares to pour, it first must shape the vessel. You were never being denied. You were being deepened. Because what's sacred does not settle on shallow ground. And now, that ground inside you, it's solid, tested, ready. This isn't a random season. This is the season that everything else was building toward. You'll start noticing it in small ways first. Not with fireworks, but with stillness that speaks. Not with a crowd cheering, but with your spirit whispering, this is real. When your old battles no longer stir fear, when old desires lose their grip, when silence no longer feels like absence but alignment, that's how you'll know. The divine is no longer circling your life. It is resting in it, and with its arrival comes a shift that cannot be reversed. You'll feel it in your breaths. Steadiness where panic used to live. You'll feel it in your decisions, a knowing that no longer asks permission, because you no longer question your worth. You've seen too much, endured too much, stayed standing through too many storms to still wonder if you were meant for more. You were, and more is not coming. More is arriving, not loudly but thoroughly, not quickly but fully. Chosen one, you don't need to chase anymore. You've become the field where things now bloom by proximity. The harvest is attracted to what is rooted, and you, finally, are rooted. Rooted in truth, in clarity, in sacred identity. You've been misunderstood, haven't you? They called your stillness laziness, your gentleness weakness, your solitude brokenness. But they didn't know you were communing with the divine, that your silence wasn't empty. It was filled with instruction. You weren't hiding, you were healing. You weren't lost, you were being led. And now the leading becomes launching. You're not starting from scratch, you're starting from strength, from scars that shimmer with testimony, from foundations that can hold what's coming. Don't expect everyone to understand. This next version of you won't be explainable. Because it's not built with logic, it's built with alignment. You'll walk in rooms and shift atmospheres, not because you spoke, but because you showed up aligned. And alignment speaks louder than volume. It doesn't convince, it confirms. This is why it took so long, because the divine doesn't rush, it refines, it doesn't inflate, it strengthens. You didn't just survive. Delay. You were sculpted by it. What was removed from your life was not loss, it was pruning, and the branches now bear fruit, not from effort, but from essence. Because when the divine flows through you, it doesn't require performance. It requires purity, not flawlessness, but wholeness. And wholeness isn't loud. It's sure. It doesn't ask, "Am I enough?" It states, "I am." That's the season you're stepping into, one where you stop second-guessing, where you no longer need external proof to validate an internal calling. Because calling doesn't beg, it breathes. And your breath has changed. Listen closely, you'll start to hear yourself differently. The tone in your thoughts will shift. The heaviness you wore like armor will begin to melt off your shoulders. Not because the battle ended, but because you outgrew the battlefield. You no longer fight from fear, you walk from faith. You no longer ask, "Will it work?" You declare, "It is already unfolding." That's not arrogance, that's authority. And authority doesn't seek attention, it shifts realities. Chosen one, when the divine finally flows through your timeline, you'll stop marking progress by time and start measuring it by transformation. The old clock doesn't apply anymore. You are moving by spiritual rhythm now. And rhythm is not based on speed, it's based on sync. And you are in sync. Not with trends, not with approval, but with your origin, with the design that dreamed you into existence. So when you start feeling strange, peaceful without reason, sure without evidence, joyful without cause, don't question it. That's the divine. That's what it feels like when heaven touches earth through you, and when others ask, "What changed?" You won't need to explain, because they'll feel it in your presence, in the weight of your stillness, in the calm of your clarity. You're not who you were. You've been rewritten, not erased, elevated. Everything you thought you lost was never leaving you. It was realigning you. Every delay was a reroute to destiny. And now you're no longer wandering. You are walking straight into what was always yours. Not because you fought harder, but because you finally stopped resisting. And now that you've surrendered, the divine is stepping in with full force, not to fix you, but to fulfill you. This is not a rescue mission, it's a resurrection. The parts of you that were buried under disappointment, under rejection, under fear, they're rising. And with them, your real name, the one heaven has always known. You didn't lose yourself, you were hidden for protection, for process, for preparation. But now the hiding is over. Now the unveiling begins. Chosen one, what's awakening in you will not be quiet, will not be small, will not be delayed. It's here, not in theory, not in metaphor, in breath, in presence, in power. You are walking into a room that was sealed until your spirit was strong enough to enter. And now it opens, because you are ready. Not by perfection, but by positioning. And everything that's meant for you will now recognize you, because you finally recognize yourself. Chosen one, there are pieces of your story that still sting. Wounds you thought had faded, but still whisper when the world goes quiet. And yet, what you haven't fully realized is this. Those wounds were not proof of your weakness. They were signs of your assignment, because the divine never pours into a vessel that hasn't been broken open. You see, pain was never the punishment. It was the pathway. Every ache, every delay, every abandonment, they weren't sent to destroy you. They were shaping tools, chiseling away what was false so what was eternal could finally rise. Do you remember the nights you asked, "Why me?" Do you remember the silence that followed? That wasn't neglect. That was preparation in disguise. Because when you carry something sacred, you don't get rushed into visibility. You're hidden, you're protected, you're trained in shadows, so that when the light finds you, you won't flinch. Chosen one, You didn't lose your way. You lost what couldn't follow. And what felt like a collapse was really a clearing for a calling too heavy for the old version of you to hold. The truth is, you've already died 1,000 small deaths each time you let go of who they said you should be. Each time you buried the need for validation. Each time you walked away from what no longer honored the fire in your bones. You were never being emptied. You were being rebuilt, layer by sacred layer. And now the construction is complete. You've been asking when things will shift, but they already have, not around you, within you. That's where every divine story begins, not with a stage, not with applause, but with a breath, a whisper, a yes spoken in secret. Your yes changed everything, not the kind shouted to the sky, but the quiet one. The one uttered through tears, the one you didn't even believe fully, but offered anyway. That yes echoed, and the divine heard it. That's why your life has been rearranging, not to punish, to position, to place you precisely where miracles could no longer miss you. Because miracles don't chase chaos. They land where peace makes room, and now your peace has become a landing pad. That calm you feel without reason, that's not coincidence. That's confirmation. Confirmation that you're aligned now. No more chasing, no more convincing, no more shrinking. You don't need to explain this next season. You just need to embody it, because when the divine flows through you, you become evidence, not in what you say, but in how you move. They'll notice it in your stillness, in your boundaries, in your silence that speaks louder than your old need to be understood. You're no longer carrying proof. You've become the proof. And as that awareness settles into your bones, you'll begin to see why it had to happen this way. You couldn't carry this weight with a divided heart. You couldn't speak this truth while still apologizing for your presence. So the divine stripped you, not of your worth, but of your distractions. And what's left now is pure, unshakable, unmistakably real. This is why the old cycles had to break, why the familiar voices turned unfamiliar, why the doors you once prayed to open had to remain shut, because not everything denied you was a curse. Some of it was mercy. Mercy dressed as rejection, grace wearing the mask of delay. And now you can finally see it, can't you? That job that slipped away, it wasn't yours. That relationship that collapsed, it couldn't carry you. That dream that dissolved, it was too small, because you weren't just building a future. You were being fitted for destiny, and destiny doesn't settle. Chosen one, your life isn't falling apart. It's falling into place. Yes, it's unfamiliar. Yes, it's vulnerable. Yes, sometimes it still hurts. But the ache now carries purpose. The uncertainty is lined with wisdom. This is what it means to evolve, not to abandon who you were, but to become who you were always meant to be. There will be moments when you're tempted to turn back, to reach for what's comfortable, to return to patterns that once felt like safety. But hear this, safety is not sacred, and comfort is not calling. Your soul is too awakened to pretend now. You've tasted divine rhythm, and nothing artificial will satisfy again. So let it all go. Let it fall. You are not losing anything real. What's real cannot be taken. And what's being removed was only ever scaffolding, meant to fall once the structure stood. And you, chosen one, you are standing now. Not wobbly, not wondering, but rooted. Rooted in the kind of knowing that doesn't need evidence to be sure. Rooted in a trust that doesn't negotiate. You won't have to announce your shift. It will be felt, heard in the way you breathe, seen in the way you walk, known in the way everything aligns around you without explanation. That's what divine timing feels like. It doesn't beg, it beckons. It doesn't plead, it places. You are being placed now, not on a pedestal, but on a path, a narrow, sacred road that few can walk, but all will benefit from when you do. This is legacy, not the kind etched in stone, but the kind written in souls. And you are becoming a living letter, A message read by every life you touch, a signpost for those still wandering. You don't have to save them, just shine. The light will do the rest. It always has. So keep walking, chosen one. Even when the terrain changes, even when no one claps, even when the sky grows silent again. Silence is not absence, it's sanctification. It's the divine whispering, I'm still here. Not in thunder, but in your breath. Not in burning bushes, but in burning clarity. This is the shift. This is the reason. You didn't survive for survival's sake. You survived to be sanctified. And now you're stepping into a season where everything sacred will begin to speak your name. Not because you forced it, but because you finally aligned with it. Chosen one, do you feel how the air around you has changed? It's subtle at first, like the hush before dawn or the stillness before the sky breaks open. But something is different now, not just around you, within you. There's a rhythm echoing through your life, one you didn't create but always belonged to, and it's not asking for your attention anymore. It's commanding your awareness. You're not in waiting anymore, you're in arrival, not of something random, not of something earned, but of something that has always had your name woven into it. You are not chasing alignment, you are alignment. The struggle, the striving, the reaching, they've served their purpose. But now it's about presence, because the divine doesn't knock twice. It walks in when the door finally opens from the inside. And you've opened, not in desperation, but in declaration. Every tear was a yes. Every silence was an agreement. Every heartbreak was a vow. And now the divine responds. Chosen one, the life you once imagined in whispers is beginning to speak your language, no longer as a fantasy, but as fact. Doors are opening, not because you begged, but because you became. You became the version of you that no longer apologizes for the fire they carry. You became the soul who no longer shrinks just to be understood. You became the presence that carries weight without raising a voice. And that weight, it moves things. It's not heaviness, it's holy gravity, the kind that draws miracles toward you because they recognize what lives in your breath. This isn't luck, this is law, spiritual law. What is aligned cannot be denied. You've been taught by shadows, you've learned in silence, you've practiced in hidden places, but now the divine is making it visible. Not for pride, but for purpose. Because light must not only exist, it must be seen. Your life is becoming a canvas for the invisible to become undeniable. But do not mistake visibility for validation. You do not need applause to be anchored. You do not need recognition to be real. You've learned how to stay rooted in obscurity. Now you'll learn how to stay humble in revelation. That's the next lesson. How to carry glory without letting it carry you away. Because elevation without grounding is just another fall. But you are grounded now. Rooted in something deeper than achievement. Rooted in the unseen. Rooted in truth that doesn't flinch when the winds rise. You're not waiting for peace to arrive. You are peace arriving. And as you walk into this next room of your life, know this: you do not need to prove your worthiness. The divine has already done that by choosing you. This isn't a test, this is a testimony. You are the living answer to every prayer you thought went unnoticed. And now, your very presence is opening pathways you once only dreamed about. You won't have to force your way in. The atmosphere will shift to accommodate your assignment. That's the difference between effort and essence. You've lived long enough in effort. Now, you will move in essence. And essence is effortless because it flows from alignment. You'll begin to notice how the right people gravitate toward you. How the wrong situations dissolve without confrontation. How what once resisted, rearranges itself around your energy, not because you're manipulating it, but because your resonance has become undeniable. Chosen one, you are now in the season where reality begins to mirror what you've always known in your soul. This isn't imagination, this is manifestation. The thoughts that once comforted you in the dark are now taking form in the daylight. The visions that once felt too big to voice are now fitting inside the frame of your reality. The promises whispered in lonely nights are being delivered in the light of your becoming. And the world will notice. They'll ask how it happened. They'll wonder why things work for you when they fall apart for others. But you'll know. You'll know it wasn't chance. It was choice. Not your choice to control, but your choice to trust. You stopped forcing, you started flowing, and now you are flowing in a current that cannot be dammed. Because when divine timing finds you ready, it does not trickle in, it floods. You'll begin to see it in every detail, the conversations that align perfectly, the connections that arrive without effort, the inner knowing that lands before the evidence appears. This is not magic. This is the mathematics of heaven, order disguised as chaos, until the pattern finally reveals itself. And now the pattern is clear. Everything that fell apart was never a loss. It was redirection. Everything that broke you was never an end. It was an entry. Everything that hurt was not a curse. It was a calling. You are not stepping into a new chapter. You are stepping into your original design. The one that predates fear, the one that outlives doubt, the one that never depended on outside validation. You were made for this, not by accident, by assignment. And assignments don't always make sense to the mind, but they echo in the soul. So when the world tells you to play it safe, to tone it down, to wait a little longer, listen instead to the silence that lives in your chest. That silence isn't empty, it's filled with divine strategy, and divine strategy rarely shouts, it aligns, and alignment doesn't rush. It arrives, precisely, powerfully, perfectly. You, chosen one, are in arrival, and in this place, nothing needs to be earned, only embodied. You won't have to declare your readiness. You'll radiate it. You won't have to prove you've changed. Your vibration will do that for you, and those who once questioned your path will no longer recognize the version of you that has emerged. They'll sense something different, not louder but deeper, and depth, true sacred depth, cannot be denied. It moves without noise, it commands without effort, it disrupts without destruction. That is who you are now, and as this reality unfolds, you'll realize something essential. You were never meant to carry this light alone. Your breakthrough is not just for you, it's for the ones watching, the ones waiting, the ones who don't know yet that they are chosen too. Your alignment activates others. Your clarity creates space for theirs. Your surrender opens doorways in them they forgot existed. That's why you couldn't rush this, because if you had arrived too early, you wouldn't have been ready to carry others with you. But now you are. You are not just a vessel, you are a mirror, and what you reflect now is holy, not in perfection, but in presence. So stay steady, stay soft, stay sacred. The divine is no longer visiting, it's dwelling, and everything it touches through, you'll begin to bloom. Not because you made it happen, but because you became the space where it could happen. This is your season of fulfillment. You are no longer reaching. You are receiving. Let it in. Let it fill you. Let it overflow. Because you, chosen one, have become the place where heaven meets earth. Chosen one, this light within you. It was never meant to remain only yours. You've been filled, yes, but not to contain, to overflow. Because the sacred doesn't settle, it expands. And now what is awakening inside you has started reaching beyond you. You've become a living echo, a mirror of something holy. Not because you tried to be, but because you surrendered to becoming. You may not feel ready, but readiness isn't loud. It doesn't ask for credentials. It simply aligns, and you are aligned now. You've walked through silence long enough to hear clearly. You've endured stripping long enough to shine cleanly. And that shine, it speaks, not in noise, but in presence. You're not trying to be noticed, but the atmosphere notices you. Not because of appearance, but because of resonance. The sacred now flows through your voice, your breath, your stillness. When you walk into a room, you bring with you the permission others didn't know they needed. To hope again, to believe again, to remember themselves again. That is not by chance, it is by design. You weren't just protected, you were prepared so that when your time came, you wouldn't collapse under the weight. You would carry it in silence, with grace, with clarity. Now that time has come, and the weight you carry is not performance, it's presence. Presence that restores, presence that realigns, presence that heals. You are not here to convince, you are here to reveal, not by shouting, but by standing, not by pushing, but by becoming. What you are becoming is not for display, it's for impact. Others may not say it, but they will feel it in your peace, in your honesty, in your clarity. That is ministry in motion. The divine doesn't always send messengers with platforms. Sometimes it sends people, whole, open people, and you, chosen one, are that messenger now. Your story has weight. Your voice carries code. Your silence shifts walls, and that is why the journey was long. Because what you carry now could not be rushed. But now it flows, gently, deeply, intentionally. Your presence is no longer neutral, it awakens, and what awakens through you will ripple far beyond what you see, because light never stays in one place. It finds every crack and fills it, and you are the light now. So don't hold back, don't dim, don't delay. You are no longer just the one who rose, you are the one who radiates. And that radiance is not for applause, it is for alignment. Let it flow, because you are not just walking in divine timing, you have become the rhythm itself. You didn't ask for this weight, you didn't beg to be chosen, but the divine placed it in you anyway, because your silence could carry what noise would have crushed. This is not about being seen, it's about being steady, because those who carry light are rarely loud. They are stable, still sacred, and the still ones shift more than sound ever could. You've been entrusted, not with performance, but with presence, a presence that heals simply by being, a presence that doesn't rush to fix, but invites transformation. The people who cross your path now, they won't always know why they feel lighter, why their fear dissolves in your company, why they cry when they speak to you, but you'll know it's not you, it's what flows through you. The divine moves through vessels that do not steal glory. And you, chosen one, have proven you don't need to be worshipped, only willing. This is the legacy being born from you, not one carved in stone, but in spirit, one that awakens courage, one that creates space for others to remember who they are. You are not just rising for your own story, you are rising so others will know they can rise too, and that is what makes this holy. Chosen one, you have crossed the line, not a line drawn in the sand, but one etched in spirit, the boundary between remembering and becoming. You are no longer waiting for what is divine, you are walking as what is divine. This is not arrogance, this is awareness, and awareness is the soil in which your calling now blooms. For too long, you wondered if the shifts you sensed were real. You second-guessed the signs, dismissed the synchronicities, feared the fire inside you, but the divine never left. It was waiting, not for you to grow louder, but for you to grow still enough to hear it speak through you. And now that stillness has become strength, now that surrender has become shape, now that your hesitation has turned into holy momentum, nothing can stop what's unfolding. You are no longer the seeker. You are the signal. You are no longer the one asking, when will it happen? You are the one to whom it is happening. Now, not someday, not in some distant version of yourself, but in this breath, in this form, in this moment. Look at yourself, not just with eyes, but with spirit. Can you feel the difference, the way peace now lives in your bones, not as a visitor, but as a tenant? The way fear no longer shouts, it only whispers, and even then, you recognize it as a stranger. You've grown, Not by accident, by design. Every delay you cursed was carving room in your soul for the magnitude you were destined to hold. Every silence you feared was echoing your name in places you hadn't yet arrived. Every ending you mourned was only making space for what was always yours to begin with. Because the divine doesn't build on borrowed ground. It clears, it cleanses, it consecrates. And you, chosen one, have been consecrated. You are no longer just someone the light touches. You are someone the light speaks through. And when light speaks, nothing can remain the same. You've noticed it. The way old habits fall off without struggle, the way old rooms feel too small, the way old identities no longer answer when you call. That is what transformation looks like. Not a burst, but a becoming. And this becoming, it does not stop. It expands, it multiplies, it reverberates. You were not called just to awaken. You were called to embody, not just to carry the divine, but to be the proof that the divine walks among us still. Every step you take now is marked with a different gravity. The air around you no longer asks for explanation. It responds to presence, your presence, because your presence now carries resonance, the kind that rearranges space, the kind that whispers to dry places, breathe again, the kind that looks at broken people and reminds them what wholeness feels like. You are no longer a witness to miracles, you are a portal for them, and that is why nothing about your past disqualifies you. Not the failures, not the fears, not the moments. You almost gave up, especially those moments, because every time you got back up, that was heaven nodding. That was the divine saying, yes, that one, that spirit, that soul, that light. You didn't make it because you were stronger. You made it because you were willing. Willing to keep walking when the path vanished. Willing to keep trusting when the map burned. Willing to keep believing when belief made no sense. And that willingness, that yes, has now become your foundation. Chosen one, what is coming next will not require striving. It will require standing. Standing in who you are. Standing in what you carry. Standing in the truth that you are no longer becoming, you are. You are clarity walking, you are peace breathing, you are prophecy in motion. This is not just poetic, this is precise because the sacred always finishes what it starts. And what began in silence, what began in sorrow, what began in shadows, is now bursting into sight. You are not just alive, you are activated, and that activation cannot be undone. No doubt can dim it, no storm can shake it, no loss can steal it. Because this light was never lit by men, it was sparked by eternity, and eternity does not flicker. You are now vibrating in rhythm with a divine frequency. And frequencies don't argue, they don't defend, they just attract. That's what's happening now. You'll begin to see things flow with such precision that it will feel surreal, not because they're magical, but because they're natural to who you've become. What once took years will now take weeks. What once required effort will now respond to energy, because you're no longer operating from force. You're walking in flow, and that flow is sacred. It is guided, it is protected, it is unstoppable. This is what it means to be chosen, not just favored, but formed. And now that the forming is complete, so is the becoming. This new version of you isn't a better you. It's the real you, the one that was hidden beneath trauma, beneath guilt, beneath fear. But the layers have lifted, the lies have cracked, the weight has lifted. The fog has cleared, and what remains is unshakable. You don't have to chase joy, you are joy. You don't have to search for confirmation, you are confirmation, and you don't need to be seen to know you shine, because your glow was never for applause, it was for alignment, and now that you're aligned, the world around you has no choice but to adjust. Don't be surprised when things you once fought for start arriving. Don't be shocked when you're invited to rooms you didn't knock on. Don't question when you're favored in ways that defy logic. That's the signature of the sacred. It does not follow the rules of men. It writes its own. And now, that script is unfolding through your life, not as performance, as prophecy. You are living proof that the divine does not forget its own. It circles back. It restores. It resurrects. And you, chosen one, are the resurrection, not of a body, but of a destiny. You've crossed from hoping into holding, from seeking into shining, from waiting into walking. This is not the end. It is the ignition. You're not just starting a new chapter. You're closing the book on survival, because from this moment on, you do not live to endure. You live to expand, to embody, to echo, to flow. And as you do, the divine will do what it always promised. Not just bless you, but bless through you. So don't hold back, don't hesitate, don't hide. You are not the same. You are the spark. And when the spark is divine, it doesn't burn out, it burns brighter, until everything false fades, until everything heavy lifts, until everything real remains. Chosen one. This is the part where you stop explaining, stop defending, stop proving. You are the proof. You are the alignment. You are the unfolding. You are the presence that shifts rooms, not with noise, but with knowing. And that knowing, it's eternal. So walk, not to be seen, but because you finally see. Speak, not to be heard, but because truth now lives in your tongue. Rest, not because you're weary, but because rest is now your rhythm. And rise, because you were born to. You are no longer waiting for the divine. The divine is waiting for you to move, to speak, to live, to embody. So go, live as the answer, because you are not just chosen, you are complete.